Another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet. That flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles. Another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet. That flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Halsey Live. I have got Green Beret Nap Time here with me, and before we get started, Green Beret, let everyone know where they can find you so that they can find. I follow you on Twitter, but I'm sure you got some other places too.
Yeah, I mean the main place I'm active is Twitter and Substack. The Substack's where I do all my long form stuff, and then Twitter. I have an IG and I have a YouTube is the same handle, but I don't really use those yet. I probably will. I'm gonna start using them a little bit more now, but yeah, for right now, X and Substack.
Yeah, I do the same. That's where I majoritively do, and Twitter is where I go to bullshit and talk and have spaces, but I do like my serious stuff on YouTube,
Yeah,
and Substack as well. But I was just talking to you about this, and it's amazing the amount of research that you've done when you go on like a target. I assume with your name Green Beret, like you have a serious military background as well.
Yeah, it's all right. There's dudes that have done a lot more than me, so
See, I'm unfortunate. I'm the first male in my family that wasn't allowed to serve in the military. So,
no.
Funny enough, it was over something stupid too. It was over my mother's cat because I was diagnosed with asthma when I was a kid. Right. And they kept this asthma diagnosis till I was about 14. And then a doctor realized I was allergic to my mother's cat. And they took the diagnosis out. But the military says if you're diagnosed with asthma after 12, doesn't matter whether it's fake or not, automatic disqualification.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's one of those things now that you can kind of get away with. I kind of had the same thing. I got in, and then I ended up marrying a girl who had cats. And didn't really realize. I knew that like I didn't like cats, but I never really had them. I never lived with them before, obviously. And man, yeah, I had like legit had to use albuterol inhalers when I'd work out and stuff because it was that bad. And finally, they put me on some other medicine, and finally, luckily that I got to get out of that situation anyway. So later,
right,
no more cats.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them either. But yeah, at the time they were really strict on it. They said if you're diagnosed and it's in I got a
Hmm.
family name in the military. Admiral Halsey was my great uncle, so
Okay.
that's where my name comes from. All the males in my family have the same first name. So
Yeah.
and it didn't matter. They automatically said no, and I regret not being able to do it, but at the same time, life goes on. But
Yeah. No, I
but
mean, everyone has their path and everyone has their role to do. Like you find what you want to do and do it, and boom. I mean, you got all kinds of different walks. So I mean, I didn't join till later on too. So
what branch were you in?
Army.
Oh, you were in the army. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, Army.
I should have known
Yeah,
that
Green
where you
Berets
were.
are Army. Army Special Forces. Yeah.
So, what got you into this whole Israel thing? Because I know it's for me, it's obviously a hot topic. I lived in Israel for 11 years. I'm a geopolitical analyst. I study the Middle East like pretty extensively. So, what got you into this?
I mean, it's more that just when I see a narrative getting pushed, I dig into it, and then I'm gonna learn everything I can about whatever they're saying. So that I either am not uninformed because I don't like being, or yeah, I don't like being uninformed about things,
Hmm.
um, and then just some curiosity, and so um, before there was always these fringe people. There's always those people that are anti-Israel,
Hmm.
and that was always just something. Especially, I mean, October 7th amplified it a little bit, but then when Charlie was killed, then I just feel like it just took off and it just became this like monster, like really, really, really fast. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, these people that haven't been a part of that little niche
Right.
of I mean, I'll call them terrible people. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um,
Same here.
but all of a sudden, they're amplifying them and they're giving them platforms. I mean, like you go on Tucker Carlson, everybody, I mean, half the United States is going to see you, and then a quarter of the world is going to see you probably. So there, it's a big platform, and I just saw it kind of going that way, and I was like, you know what, let's look into this a little bit more, and let's if I can't figure out like what's going on, I can at least push back a little bit and like put factual information out and things that can be verified, things that aren't propaganda from 70 years ago,
Hmm.
and really start pushing that, and I get attacked for it like every day, which is funny, but it's also kind of the world we live in, and that's this information and the information operations and all that. That's the new battlefield. I mean, we're not. No one can attack us kinetically. No one can defeat us and our allies as we are right now.
Hmm.
Um, even if the rest of the world ganged up and it was us, Israel, and the Five Eyes, like we would destroy them. And they know
For
that. And
sure.
they know that we would dominate them, and they know it. And so this information operation push is kind of it's just the beginning of what they're going to start doing. And AI is only going to amplify it even more. So it's just kind of pushing back. I poke holes in things for fun. So it's just kind of turned into now, and now it's more like now it's kind of like personal, and it's like when someone tells you not to do something, I'm like, well, now I'm
Hmm.
going to do it even harder. And so like the more pushback I get, the more I'm like, you know what, dude, I ain't doing nothing wrong. I'm posting what can be verified as truth, and I'm giving you the tools to see it and understand it. And if you don't want that, that's fine. But like, I'm gonna do it now. If you're gonna attack me for it, I'm gonna do it even more.
When
So
I first got into it, it's funny because I say there's so many cliches that you hear online, and then you realize those cliches are really true, right? Like it's not
mhm.
just that people hate Israel. The majority of people that hate Israel hate the U.S. and they see the
Oh yeah,
defeat. They just see the defeat of Israel as really the defeat of the U.S. Like if we can get the U.S. to abandon its allies and stand alone, then it's an easier target than if you just go after the U.S. themselves. Like you said, it would be pointless, right?
right. Right. And I mean, this is definitely not organic. It's
Mm-hmm.
not organic from our country. Some of these people that have been in this niche, like they're just getting amplified. Like a
Mm-hmm.
bot farm can amplify somebody just as much as I'm going to pay you this amount of money to say this stuff. Some of these people are going to say this stuff anyway. Like I think that they just found their niche and they were making money in it. So they're just pushing it farther and farther. What else can I find? And so eh, I don't know if it's necessarily them knowing for sure that everything they're finding is lies, and then they're just like, I'm just pushing lies, but I'm just not going to tell anybody. I think that a lot of them are really believers in it, and they just really don't understand that, like, all of these little memes that they're pulling up, and all these, they're like this is the Talmud, and this is, they, all this stuff, and they're pulling up, and I'm like, one, you don't understand what that is. Two, all these sources you're pulling from were propaganda sources. They were identified as propaganda sources in the moment, 70 years ago, or they were identified within the next 10 to 20 years. Like this, no, this came from, this came from the Bolsheviks, or this came from, the Nazi propaganda, or this came from a paper that was like, that peddled that stuff on purpose. And they see it and they're like, this is old and this says this, so this must be true. And it's just this complete lack of knowledge of history is what, and it's just allowing people to latch on to these crazy narratives. And then it's just, everyone wants something to blame for the problems of the world. And I mean, that's the easiest. That's literally for like 2,000+ years now. Who have they blamed? They have the Bible is written half about Jewish people, so like, of course there's going to be a lot of animosity in that. It's just like, if you changed it, and if you took it, like, if Jew was never a word, right, and it was just, they named it something else, guess who everyone would hate today? That word.
Exactly. And it's funny because it's, people say it all the time. They'll say, well, these people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, all them, they're paid by Qatar. Well, with Tucker, we know he is actually paid by Qatar on some things. But I explain it to people. I'm like, look, but it's a simple statement, but it's actually a lot deeper than that, because it's not like someone from Qatar sat down with them and said, hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars if you go out and say X amount of bullshit. But when you're on social media, and especially if that's how you make your living, you know where your bread is buttered. You know that if you talk about certain things and nobody watches and you don't make any money, that you're probably not going to want to talk about those things. But when you say other things, and all of a sudden your donations and your super chats and your subscriptions go up, you say, well, wait a minute, this is my bread and butter. Obviously I'm onto something and I'm hitting a chord, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I encourage you, there's a group out of Rutgers University. They're called the Network Contagion Research Institute. And they did a whole study on these people in the bot farms and all of that. And one of them was Fuentes. They said Fuentes is like 50% bots. There were some others that come off, they try to come off as like American military men and things like that, but they're really Pakistani bot farms, like sometimes up to 95% bot farms. And you realize that, like, okay, this is a lot more insidious than we thought. Like, when you start getting into foreign governments influencing what's going on in America, you're dealing with literally subversive elements that are trying to actually take down our country. Like, it's, and I know, it's like the Trump Russia thing made everybody think like, oh, okay, this isn't as big a deal as I thought. But it really is. Like, if we intend to survive as a people and as one united nation, how do we let foreign governments influence our politics like this?
Yeah. Well, and people always say, they're like, well, Israel lobbies way more. Well, that's not true. Even if you add AIPAC and Israel together, they're still barely in the top 10. They're literally number 10. And you know what? Fine, dude. I'm fine with ending foreign lobbying. Do it. Like pass a law. Congress get together and be like, hey, no foreign lobbying. Like you don't get to come. You don't get to come and you spend 250 million like Qatar's doing on 88 lobbying firms and PR firms to create a better region for them to get what they want. So there it's soft influence, and everyone's doing it. There's just only one. There's only one group of people or one country that people care about, and that's another reason why, like, I push back on this. I'm like, look, dude. I mean, like, I don't have anything against Israel. I mean, again, I don't know a whole lot about Judaism. I'm not going to sit here and like say I know a lot. I know a little bit, and I know enough to know when like someone's lying about like the Talmud or what like that. I'm like, okay, that's silly. I know what the Talmud is. At least I know it. I know that it's not like scripture. That it's it's people basically arguing over ideas for thousands of years. And of course, there's going to be some radical ones in there. All right, if we were allowed to read all the different scrolls that are locked away in the Vatican that they're never going to let anyone read, I'm pretty sure there'd be some priests and some popes and some higher people up in the Catholic Church saying some pretty messed up stuff, right? So again, it's just the whole, and it's this whole vilification of an entire group of people just so you have someone to blame. It's silly. It's like call out evil ideologies, call out and call out evil nations, right? Like Russia, I don't think is an evil nation in itself. That like not every person that lives in Russia is terrible. That would be an insane thing to say. But their government is definitely an adversary to ours, and they are against Western ideals. So, like, you know, we can call out these things, and we can even, and again, like if I were to really look into like Jewish politics, you know, Israeli politics, which I don't really understand, and I don't understand them enough to tell you like someone's like Bibi's terrible. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I mean, maybe not. You know, like we have a lot of terrible politicians too, so it wouldn't actually surprise me. But I don't think that he's terrible because he's a Jew. That would be silly, right? That's a silly thing to say. It's just like saying like, oh, that dude's from China. He's definitely terrible. Well, I mean, is he part of the CCP? Does he believe that ideology? Then yeah, I would probably agree he's not the best person. But if he just was born there, like here, you know, they can't help that.
Right, for sure.
It's a lack of critical thinking. It's a lack of ability for people to like understand that everything's not black and white. That like, you know, you
well,
give
I'll
and take
inform you
and
of something just to have some fun with you for a minute. The Talmud is scripture, but this is why. If you read the Old Testament, or even if you read the New Testament, it doesn't actually say anything. It doesn't say how you do the things you're commanded to do. It'll say, go forth and multiply. It'll say, don't bathe the child in its mother's milk. Right? How do we know what those things mean? So as they say at the time of Sinai, Moses was told these things. It was an oral tradition. Like, okay, this is what I meant by this. This is what is meant in the Old Testament. As the Jews were dispersed from one location and exiled to different places, they realized that they were in a predicament where that oral tradition might get lost. It was already starting to have arguments from people from different places that it was interpreted in different ways. So they got together and they discussed, what does each thing mean? And it led to huge arguments, to huge disputes. They brought in stories from their own area, like, and a lot of them, like, it would seem like it's a really big theocratic argument, but it's not. Like, they would say, what are you allowed to light Sabbath candles with? And some people would say radish oil, and some people would say nut oil. And one guy said you can only use olive oil. But then if you step back for a minute, you realize the guy who said you can only use olive oil came from an area where olive oil was plentiful. All the others came from an area where there was no olive oil. So, of course, they had different traditions on what you can use. So those were where those arguments came from. So it's not that it's scripture. It's not like the Torah contains everything written in the Talmud. It's just how they took this oral tradition to make sure it didn't get lost. You know?
And yeah. But people wield it against anyone. Like, they'll find one little passage in it and they'll be like, this isn't normal, this is bad, or whatever. And I'm like, all right. They're just taking stuff out of context like everyone always does to fit their argument.
Sure. And along with the thing with AIPAC, if you tell me you want to ban foreign lobbying tomorrow, I wouldn't care. Like, that's fine. That's great. But you realize that wouldn't affect AIPAC at all. Every dollar that comes into AIPAC and is spent by AIPAC is American citizens. You can't take away their freedom of speech.
Yeah. You know? And that's always another part of their argument. They're like, do you want foreign people to, like, I'm like, hey, like, one, dual citizens between two nations that are very compatible and very ideologically similar is a good thing, right? Like, obviously, you know, I mean, cool. If you want to put some restrictions on, like, if you're a dual citizen, can you have a certain security clearance or like whatever? Like, I mean, I'm sure other countries do that thing. Fine, dude. Put it on there. You know, there's certain jobs you might not be able to do if you are a dual citizen. Okay.
Sure. Or that you have to renounce one of your citizenships if you're going to take a certain position. Israel does it.
Right. If you're going to,
if you get elected in Israel to a position, or if you want to go work for the defense industry, you have to renounce any foreign citizenships you have.
Yeah. And that's fine doing that in the United States too. So then that solves that problem. But that still doesn't change the fact that, like, the societies are very intertwined and they're very compatible. So when, you know, there's tons of Jewish families here, it's just one of those things. It's like, why would you, this isn't a bad thing. You know, one, it's not militant Islam trying to murder us every day. Right. So you're already like focusing on the wrong people anyway. And and they don't. A lot of it is just like people don't understand what we're really up against, and especially if if you've never been over to the Middle East, if you've never seen that culture, in flesh, like in front of you, doing the things that are okay in that culture. Like, I can't explain it to you. I mean, even if I do explain it to you, you're probably not going to believe me. You're gonna be like, no, like they don't do that. Like they do, dude. Like it's pretty bad. And I tell people too, like, I've never seen hate like the hate in people's eyes while we were there. Now I get it, like to an Afghani in their compound, in their tiny little place, like the soldier coming in is scary. We're looked at as an occupier. So like, yeah, but it's not even that. Like those engagements, yeah, they didn't like us, or they didn't really necessarily want us there. They kind of understood why we were there, but like it also put them in a bind. Like now the Taliban might come and kill them just because we came through. So it's like it's more just fear at that point. But when you go through certain places in the Middle East, and even when you're not really a threat at all, whether you're not holding your gun up at anybody, you're not doing anything, right? The hate that you can just see in their eyes is like a thing that I can't explain. I've never seen it before anywhere else in the world, until I saw it there, and it's a real thing. So, and again, we could talk about all the terrible stuff, but it's just one of those things. It's just not a compatible ideology with our Western civilization, and I think we've kind of proved that by what's happening in like Dearborn and some of these other examples that we have in the United States. And it's only going to get worse. I mean, Sharia law is like worse than any other authoritarian kind of government that there is. It's equivalence of what North Korea would be like if North Korea just believed in a god rather than the atheist state that it is. So it's bad.
So you want to know something interesting about Dearborn? Do you know? You would think that it was foreign governments. You would think that it was leftists that wanted to, infiltrate a certain area. That's not how Dearborn became Dearborn. Dearborn became Dearborn because of Jew hatred. Henry Ford.
Because of what?
Because of Jew hatred. Henry Ford needed workers to work at his plant in what at the time was Detroit. So he wound up saying he didn't want Jews, he didn't want Chinese, and he didn't want blacks. So what he did was he brought in immigrants from Lebanon, Syria, and from, at the time, Saudi Arabia. And he populated Detroit, Michigan with tons and tons of Arab Muslims. And then when he moved Ford's headquarters to Dearborn, the Arabs followed him because that's obvious they wanted to keep their jobs.
So I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. That's actually how Dearborn became Dearborn. It was because of Henry Ford. So, and the rest all did it because of Biden, basically. But like when you talk about Minnesota and places like that.
Well, and they always talk, they'll bring up Henry Ford, and like Henry Ford, I mean, okay, decent businessman, but he was like a raging racist. So like, why are we, we can talk about people in history and be like, no, that dude was terrible, right?
There's a lot of things that happen in history that's terrible, and when all's said and done, you can judge them for who they were, yes. And you could look at their ideology and say, okay, their ideology led to a lot of bad things. But at the same time, you would want to be able to say, okay, well, we can dismiss that as maybe being a product of the times. And Ford shouldn't be overlooked for the fact that he made cars accessible to everyone, and that people can do really good things with really shitty ideology. But at the same time, to emulate the ideology and to tie it to the accomplishment is really, really bad, right? Like to say like, oh, well, look at Ford. He was a raging anti-Semite and he created cars for the masses. And it's like, well, no, one had nothing to do with the other. In fact, probably one hindered the other quite a bit.
Right.
And it's the same people that say, well, Hitler created economic prosperity in Germany. Well, first of all, he didn't. And second of all, it's like, even if he did, his ideology so outweighed any good that he could have possibly done that this is not a person you want to emulate. It's the same thing like you were saying with Sharia law. Like, there are a lot of things that people can say, well, in Sharia law governed countries, they don't have a negative birth rate. Or they don't have a problem with violent crime like we do here. It's like, yes, that's true, but they also lop the hands off of thieves. They also... throw people off of buildings. They also keep women in beekeeper outfits and keep them in the closet. So is that worth what is the desired result? What is it worth the pain that you'd have to go through to get it to emulate these kind of societies? You know,
Right.
and the dual citizen thing is obviously red herring because do you know how many dual citizens there have been in Congress ever? I think three:
Right.
John McCain, Ted Cruz, and Michelle Bachmann. So
Yeah.
two were Canada, one was Panama. Like,
Yeah. Well, and then they just always push the theory that every Jewish person is a monolithic, like part of a hive mind, and they're just like, oh well, I'm a Jew, so I believe that it's idiocracy. It's just it doesn't make any sense. They know it doesn't make any sense, but they push it anyways.
well,
I
it's
mean,
hilarious because Randy Fine is Jewish, but so is Bernie Sanders. So you
right,
know, it's like
right. I
how
mean, exactly.
monolithic can you get?
There was communist Jews, there was fascist Jews. Not really, there was at the very beginning, and then there wasn't after that. But I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, the few Bolsheviks that were Jews, they were killed or put in jail or like whatever pretty quickly. And then when Stalin finally took over, then they were definitely like he lumped them in with the kulaks and just killed
Mm-hmm.
everybody. So it's one of those things. It's they push this constant thing like that. Ian Malcolm dude, just such a whatever. Like one, he has a weird obsession with Jeff Goldblum from from
Which
Jurassic
is
Park.
very strange. I agree.
Yeah, it's super strange. Like all videos, he puts in little clips of like Jeff Goldblum doing weird things. I'm just like, what is your like? Have you ever actually touched a woman in your whole life, or is this like all you do?
The
But
answer for
he
most of
he'll
them is no. But
Yeah, right. Well, a lot of these dudes, they're just 4chan, like the Reddit 4chan people that like now they found a way that they can get monetized for their craziness.
mm-hmm.
Um, and he put up stuff like that. Like he put up that the Bolsheviks were Zionist Jews, and I'm like, one, they like outlawed Zionism, like they like
Mm-hmm.
literally killed everybody that had anything to do with that. And all this thing, it's just like, and Karl Marx was there, like he was technically a Jew because his mom was a Jew, and I'm like, okay, but he was an atheist, and
He
he renounced all, like
he wrote a book
none
called
of this is.
the Jews and Their Lives or something like that. Like,
Yeah, no, I
you
mean
know,
he hated every religion, but he hated Jews especially. And so you're trying to tell me that because he was ethnically a Jew that like so you're really it's just racism then at that point.
mm-hmm.
Like really we're talking about that you hate people that are of a certain race and you're accusing them all of being evil like him, even though that one doesn't have anything to do with the other.
You see,
Like Karl Marx is just an evil person.
also what you're touching on is something that I think is a real danger for our country in general. And it's not just an Israel thing. It's not just a Jewish thing. It's not just a Christian thing. It's not any of that. It's that people are finding that impressing internet losers is a viable option for a career. And so instead of going out and living life, they're just trying to impress
Yeah.
people that are stuck in their same little social media echo chambers and they're not able to actually experience any part of life. And the worse they get into it, the more self confirming it is. Because it's like, well, I'm online all the time and we realize that it's all Jews. And then someone like Tucker Carlson says, I got booted from Fox News, which was mostly just BoomerCon, Republican stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got to get more radical. So who am I going to impress? I have to impress these crazy people online. So then he gets sucked into it. And next thing you know, you have this community of people that have never interacted with the rest of the world. They've never experienced anything life had to offer. And so they only see a negative outcome of everything. They only say, well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a good job. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of this stuff. And it must be someone's fault. So let's look into whose fault
Yeah.
it was. And we'll just look in the same place that's fucking us over in the first place, the internet.
Right.
You know?
Well, that and they'll take we don't have any money, we're broke, and we're sending 3.8 billion a year to Israel, and so then that's why I did the ROI thread that I did, was just to like, hey, like, look, guys, this is what we consider an investment,
Mm-hmm.
and when you invest in something, if you get a good return from it, that's a good thing, and you kind of want to keep that going, right? And if I would have found that we didn't get a good return out of it, I'd have been like, hey, this probably maybe this is kind of as pointless as the 1 billion that we give to Egypt, or the 1 billion, a little over 1 billion we give to Jordan. that we get little to nothing out of. So I mean, I researched those too, and there's nothing there. It's literally we give them money so that Egypt will keep the Suez Canal open to us. So like, why, like, which one's more important? I don't know. It's just one of those things. And then it doesn't matter what you show them. It doesn't matter what they don't care about that because, they're getting fed these memes are cooler, right? That's where they learn, even though it's all fake. And like Ian Malcolm posted a thing on my thing, hit, the wall of faces, the old Nazi trick they used to do. So they put like a few evil people and then a bunch of other faces and then names and lump them all together as like, these are the evil ones. And it's like, the thing he posted was 3 different eras. It was like half those people didn't even live at the same time and were in no way related. And then only like a very small percentage were Jews. And then only a very small percentage were actually evil. So it's just like, you're just throwing all this stuff together and you're saying all this stuff and none of it actually means anything real, but it looks good. And stupid people who don't know history flock to it. And they're like, oh, this must be true. So, I mean, I was one of those people that when I was growing up, I read a lot and I read a lot of different history books. I read a lot of different things. So when I see something, again, I don't have the brain of Charlie Kirk where I can just pull up a quote or I can pull up verses of the Bible, and recite them and all that kind of stuff. Like he had an amazing ability to do that. But what I can do is when I see someone say something about something, I'm usually like, again, I don't know everything, but I know enough about a little bit of a lot of stuff that I can be like, I don't know about that. And then I'll go look and I'll verify from there. But, a lot of other people don't even have the ability to do that at all because they didn't ever learn history in the first place.
Also, you know what happens, and I'm finally old enough that I can admit this. People think that history started with their adolescence, right? Like the things they can remember. So I can remember the tail end of the Cold War, right? And I remember when Rocky beat communism. I remember we did duck and cover when I was in school, where in case the Russians ever sent nuclear bombs over, we were told to get under our desks and cover up, which is the most ridiculous thing now that I think back on it. But I mean,
it's just but stuff,
But you say, what do we get out of the money we give to Egypt, right? And people don't realize what the Cold War was. The Cold War was proxy wars being fought all over the world by 2 major nuclear powers so that they would avoid obliterating basically the entire world. And in the 70s, after Russia had given every piece of military equipment they possibly could to every Arab nation to defeat the Western weapons that were going into Israel, that they lost. They could not beat Israel on the battlefield. And there was a real concern that they were going to give Egypt the bomb and that Egypt was going to use the bomb and this could lead to nuclear war. And not that I think Jimmy Carter was a good president, he wasn't. But he recognized that whatever it cost us monetarily to avoid another war between Egypt and Israel, it was probably worth it because it was probably going to escalate to a nuclear conflict, right? And so he basically bribed everyone. He said, Israel, you give up the Sinai. Egypt, you chill out and do your thing. We'll make sure that you get some money so that you're not crawling to Russia for weapons, and we'll continue it. And that's basically what it is. And when you think about it, $1 billion a year for peace to Egypt is really not a lot. In fact, it's nothing. It's like an accounting error when it comes to how much money the U.S. government actually spends. So,
to Israel or to Egypt, or Israel's like 0.056% of our annual budget. So
our annual foreign aid budget. It's
like of our annual total budget, it's like 0.056%. So it's not even a tenth of a percent of our budget, you know. So
and it returns 10 times that. So
10 times, easy that. I mean, the lowest estimate that you could go with it, you could, if you were going to ignore some other things that you just couldn't put like a strict dollar amount on, you're still at 3 to 5x, of that investment, which is if you invest in $1,000 and you get a 3x return on that, it's pretty good. Like in the market, it's a pretty good investment.
One would say. And I mean, also when you look at our foreign aid budget, if you do look at it as investment, there's no other country that returns even 1x to the United States in terms of money invested to monetary gain brought back. Most other foreign aid budgets go and are just strictly given to other countries, usually for
Yeah,
some sort of diplomatic
exactly.
thing.
We don't get anything back out of it.
Hmm.
We get access and placement. That's about it. You know,
Yeah,
we can move things here. We can place these here. We'll get an embassy or we'll get a consulate. You know, and people don't realize that. People don't realize what embassies and consulates are for anyway. They don't understand that, like, one, it's a diplomatic means of communication between two countries, and it's also a means to legally spy on whoever
exactly.
where you're at. Like, that's a more important one. You know, the diplomatic stuff is cool too, because you definitely need to have that. But they don't realize, like, if there's an embassy or a consulate there, it's because they're running spies out of it.
Why do you think America still sticks with the UN, even though the UN is completely pointless? Because you have diplomats from every country around the world running around New York. How do you spy on anybody better than that? You know, like, there's a reason why we keep them around, even though they're completely useless. You know,
Right.
And there's a reason why other countries say we would love to host the UN. You know, because obviously they want the same abilities. You know,
Yeah.
but I feel like right now and with Trump's election, there was kind of a breath of fresh air, right? Like, we won. But at the very most, we have 3 more years of Trump. If he loses the midterm, we only have another year of Trump. And after that, we're going to enter a very dangerous time for this country because no one has any idea how to present a plan for America that's going to get us back on track. And I feel like, at the very least, Trump trying to end all these wars. Now, there are plenty of things he does I disagree with. There are plenty of diplomatic moves he makes that I disagree with. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to stop these things because they will spiral out of control with someone that isn't Trump. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, just like we saw it spiral out of control after Charlie. Charlie was that voice. It was so dominating and loud in the conservative movement, or even really on anyone on the right, not even conservatives, because there's a lot of people on the right that are not conservatives. But just his ability, like, if that were to start getting pushed, he would have pushed back against it, and he would have clarified the few things that he said. Like, yes, there are some Jewish people that are giving money to socialist causes that are helping the left and that are helping the detriment of our country. But that doesn't mean that every Jew is bad, and it doesn't mean that Israel is bad because of that. Like, he was clear about these things, but they'll take these little clips out of context now, and they'll be like, "See, right before he died, he said something bad about Jews, and now he's dead." I'm like, no,
right,
guys. Charlie Kirk, he has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of him talking, and of course he is going to say things, and if you take it out of context, it's going to seem not that great, you know. Which, even actually for him, is still pretty rare. You can't really find anything he says that I really ever even disagree with. Even if you're like trying to take it out of context, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure I know what he was talking about there, and it was probably fine. But it's just he's no longer here to defend himself and to keep that movement pushed that way. And so now everyone's eating each other to try to get to where he was. But like, you can't take his place. He was one of those few people that is not going to be replicated, probably not until another generation, you know. Maybe there's a younger kid that can come up and that can do the things that he was able to do, and that genuinely wants to talk to people, and just even if he knows like they hate him and they're gonna be rude to him and they're gonna call him names and they're gonna just like be just as nasty as possible, he would still be pretty respectful. He would shut him down. He wouldn't let him walk all over him. You know, he's not a pansy, but at the same time, he was willing to talk to anybody, and
what he gave America was hope, and especially young people. He understood that the message was, America's a great place. America is founded on great principles, and even if we go astray, there's still always hope that our people are good enough and our desire is strong enough and our innovation is great enough that we can pull out of it. And the problem is, when someone like him is taken from us quickly, the vacuums that they leave tend to get filled with fear, right? And especially when the guy gets butchered on live TV, you know? Right. And so, and that's the problem right now, is that there's a lot of people that are exploiting the fact that all these people that thought, oh my God, I thought great things were happening, and this is such a kick in the teeth that he's gone. And now people are like, well, he's gone because bad people want to hurt you. and I'm going to stop the bad people, and let me tell you who these bad people are. And in doing so, they take that hope and they turn it into the same fear that Charlie fought against. And that's why when they talk about his legacy is one of hope. I was just telling this story to someone this afternoon. It's the most ridiculous story. I did an internship in DC when I was in college, right? And they used to have these like congressional mixers and like all these things where you could just go meet people in politics, make connections and all of that. And I was at one and I found myself talking to Geraldine Ferraro. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
She was the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats when they ran against Reagan the second time, when Reagan won 49 states. And the most random person to find yourself talking to. And I'm sitting there, I'm talking to this woman, and I said, I love hearing stories that I can't hear everywhere else. Like, tell me something about politics that, like, you don't just normally, I wouldn't hear anywhere. She says, after the race, after we got shellacked, like, they lost 49 states, and she's like, we went on our tour to thank all our supporters and thank the people that, got us where we were going. And she said, we went to a union rally that was, I want to say it was in Minnesota, but it was in one of the Midwest states. I don't remember. And she said, we sat down with leadership and we said, guys, we are your people. Like we said we would do everything for the unions. We would give you everything you asked for. The Republicans want to get rid of the unions. Like, why did your people vote like 80% for Reagan? And she said, the leadership looked and said, he makes us proud. And she said it completely altered her entire outlook of politics. That because this guy was serious. He was like, it isn't about what you could offer me in terms of some bullshit Gibbs or some benefit. He made us proud to be Americans, and you can't put a price on that. That was Charlie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Charlie made you proud to wake up and know you were an American, that you were given a gift of living in this country.
Right.
And without that, we're so fucked. For all those people that he touched, and now those people are trying to figure it out, and your heart goes out to those people, like
I will say though that this push we're seeing, it is on social media, but we also have to remember that like most of the world is not on social media, there's a lot of people that are on Facebook or Instagram in the sense that they have it, and they like occasionally they look at their local stuff and they'll kind of go through their little whatever they normally see every day. But most of the people don't know that this is even really going on. A lot of people, I mean, I did have like one of my wife's friends was like, they're saying that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And I was like, no. I was like, where'd you see that? And she was like, it was on a story on Instagram. I was like, okay. So just remember, not everything online is great. There's literally zero evidence that suggests that at all. Like not even a smidge of it. And so just, I was like, just kind of, ignore that kind of stuff when you see it. Like if it seems kind of crazy, like it probably is a little bit crazy. But yeah, most of the people, they're not like when I go interact with people in the real world, like no one's talking about Nick Fuentes, right? Like no one's talking about the groypers. Most people don't even know what that word is. I didn't even know what it was until probably, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. And they didn't really even bother me until now. Again, they were just a niche group of weirdos that everyone just kind of like, whatever. Y'all are racist little weirdos that never leave your basements. And they still are that. They just now have Candace Owens, and they have these other people that are pushing their, the same things that they were pushing. So they're but it's just like any other collectivist join up, right? It's just like the populist MAGA, that like the people that joined MAGA so that they could defeat Kamala and the left, right? They were like centrist to left leaning people anyway. They're not conservatives. This was not a alliance that could last, because populists want instant gratification. They want change immediately, and that's not the way our government is created on purpose. And they're willing to run roughshod over the Constitution to get what they want, which then puts them at odds with me. So I'm like, hey, no, like, do I think that the Constitution is perfect? And I think that everything that has happened, leading up to this point, it should have happened necessarily? No. And I think there's certain things in the Constitution that we could look at and we could amend, and we could do things that, would be better for America. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we just disregard it because we can do better. Like, it's the most important non-religious document that's ever been, written in the history of mankind. So let's let's give it a little respect, and let's, this is you, and especially like all of us veterans, like we took an oath to that thing, that should mean something to you. So it's, we see this, you see this big push, and it's just anytime you bring, ideologies that are like, they're okay, similar, but they're really not compatible. It's bound to happen. I mean, I saw this happening when, when they were bringing RFK in, and they're bringing in Tulsi, and I love Tulsi. She's a great person. I know her through some other people, and she, we have some differing views on certain things that, she's a little bit more on the left on, but she is actually a true patriot, and she really does care about Americans. She does care about, veterans and making America better. So not really her I'm talking about as much, but when you bring in these people that they're not Republicans, they're not conservatives for sure, and they're really only lumping in because like their only other option was either the gay weirdo libertarian or Kamala Harris, who is either drunk half the time or just can't even finish a sentence. So it's like, it's one of those things. And honestly, there was a lot, and I even said it too. There was scare, if Kamala wins, what will actually happen? Mm-hmm. But our government, our constitution, and the way our government is set up is actually really, really brilliant. And even if Kamala had won, it wouldn't have, there would have been checks and balances on anything that she would have tried to do. And it probably would have actually made us do better in the midterms. And then there would have just been less that they could do, and they could cram down our throats. So it would have still ended up fine. And people would have realized, like, we would have lost a lot on the world stage. We'd had a lot of, foreign issues with that. Mm-hmm. And then there obviously would have been some executive orders that made our lives way more difficult. But all in all, it probably would have still been fine.
You know what the best example of that is? I tell people that I live in New Jersey, right? Blue state as they come. We had the shittiest gun laws on the planet, right? Now our mayor is a complete libtard, like he's as close to a communist as you'll get. And when the Bruin decision came down that carrying a gun is a right, okay, he let it happen. He understood that this was a decision by the Supreme Court. He may disagree with it. He might fight like hell to pack the court and make it Democrat, elect Democrats, do whatever, but everybody carries guns now. There was still that like again, did he make it a little more difficult? Sure, but in the end, he respected the decision because that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I got a buddy. We do a lot of spaces together, and he was said it today, and it was kind of like one of those eye openers where I was like, it's a slogan, but it carries so much more depth than it should. What Trump brought out and what people have really latched onto is that we're afraid of losing our country to foreign influence in general, whether it be illegals coming over the border, asylum seekers that are being bussed in, Sharia law, Islam, wars, Israel, you name it. We're afraid of losing our heritage in the country, which is a heritage of our Constitution, right? That we live in a free society that cares about our country and the advancement of our country, the protection of our military, the projection of American power, the constitutional safeguards that we have. And because of that, a lot of fear can be stoked too. And it becomes easy to say, well, okay, Israel is foreign influence, or they're importing too many H-1Bs, or they're doing this. And I think that there's this general idea, we want our government to do something about this. Like, if there's 100 million illegals in the country, then we want them to go. If Americans need jobs and Americans are qualified for jobs, I don't care if Indians are cheaper. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not what we do. And I think the more we focus on that, and the more we focus on the idea that in this country we have a legacy to protect and a freedom to promote, that I think we have a winning argument, and we're going to continue having a winning argument. And they can keep distracting with, rent's very high and inflation and all. And yes, those are all big deals. But in the end, we want America to stay America. And that's not a white nationalist slogan. That's not a pro or anti-Israel slogan. It's meaningless to any specific cause other than America is for Americans, and this is our legacy. And if you're joining our legacy, we'll find a way to fit you in, but you have to join our legacy. Like when our ancestors came here, They had the one benefit of if you came here and didn't make it, you starved or went back. There was no one
Yep.
giving you a helping hand. There was no social safety
Mhm.
net. There was no free Obama phone. You came, and because of that, we attracted the best and the brightest and the people who wanted to shed any foreign identity they had to become American, because being American was so desirable. And we're losing that. And I think that that if we get back to that message, I think we have a winning argument forever. You know?
I I think you just have to be able to speak about things intelligently. Like listen, one, I don't have all the answers, right? I don't know
No, it
everything,
does.
but I have a different worldview and a different experience and a different level of expertise than some people have, and I've seen the world from a different perspective. So I'm gonna give my, we're gonna talk about these things, but we can talk about that. It's harder online, especially when, and like sometimes I'll be too fast to be like, you're an idiot, go away, because I get hit every post I'm gonna get, especially if it even says the word Israel or anything about Israel in it. There's 100 dudes that are coming on, they're like, you're a Jew cuck, or you're a blah, blah, and it's just like, so most of those I just immediately, I actually found out now that if you hide and block, it gives you an option just to block. You don't even have to go to their page then to try to like block them, and it takes a whole lot of time. So I'm just like, when you say some crazy stuff, I'm just like, boom, hide block, like get out of here. You're obviously either a bot or a troll, and either way, there's no
Mm-hmm.
discourse happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm a little too fast on that, but at the same time, like if you really want to sit down, and even if I disagree with you, and I might laugh at you, or I might even be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But hey, guess what? Like, if you're saying something asinine, then you can't expect someone to just be like, oh well, it's okay for you to feel that way. Like that's not reality, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you tell me that there's no benefit to the U.S. Israeli strategic alliance, I'm gonna laugh at you and tell you that you're one, you know nothing about geopolitics, and two, you know nothing about the alliance, so you can't even talk about it intelligently. Because if you actually knew about the alliance, you wouldn't think that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no evidence to show that it is bad for the United States in any way. The only thing that you're looking at is that we give them 3.8 billion a year, but you don't even realize that that's a contract with a guaranteed return back of that money, and it requires them to not only use our weapon systems, our bomb, all of our different things. It requires them to test them, and it requires them to help us make them better. So it's like it's this whole joint thing that you don't even understand. So like I tell you, I'm like, dude, what do you know about geopolitics that is giving you this opinion, right? And they're like, whatever, I saw it, or this, and it's always like some like Ian Carroll was talking about it. I'm like, Ian Carroll, wasn't he like a pizza boy or a bartender like 4 years ago or something? Like
Yeah,
what?
it was like an
Like,
Uber driver or something. Yeah.
yeah, Uber driver. Like what? Why are you listening to him? Like why are you listening to this person who has the expertise of you? They just got on the internet and started talking about it, and maybe he's funny. I don't know. I haven't really watched him. I watched a few things on Nick Fuentes. Honestly, I don't hate Nick Fuentes. He's he's decent at what he does, right? He is a little like weird, and I don't like necessarily listen to him a lot. But he's funny sometimes too, which like during his super chats, I was expecting him like these crazy theories of these people are saying all this stuff. I was expecting him to just be like, "Oh yeah, that is definitely what happened." But there's a lot of times where he's like he'll like read it and he'll be like, "Okay, crazy," and like just close it off. And he's like somewhat normal in that, but he still knows what he's doing. And that a lot of these guys like Tucker Carlson, like him, like these people that have these platforms, they know, right? They know what gets them more money. They know the analytics that are involved with everything they're doing. They know when they say certain things, they're going to get more response out of that, just like you were saying earlier, and that's what they're going off of now. And and Nick was always kind of a fringe dude anyway. He's just now kind of getting big. Um, and you know what I mean, like have fun, dude. Get your bag, do your thing. That's fine. But like maybe don't destroy America in the process, or destroy the right, because that's really what you're trying to do. You're going to sit here and say you're not, like, we're going to take over. Like, no, you have no candidates. You have nobody even in the realm of about to being in the government that believes in your views. No one wants to create a Christian ethno state in the United States, because one, that's against the entire Constitution, and two, it's just an asinine thing to even say, right? But you have you're popular with a bunch of dudes that live with their moms still. So like, let's just how powerful is he really? I mean, he's powerful enough to ratio you on X, or or like say your name and get people to come, trash you a little bit. But that's about it. That's like the only power that he has, because they're not influencing politics. And that's the other thing, is like, these people can scream and cry and get so mad about Israel on Twitter and on YouTube, and they can talk about how terrible it is and blah, 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 blah. Guess what? The second you join Congress, or the second you get a security clearance and you're in that world and you see the returns and you see what would happen if we didn't have this alliance, you're going to be like, okay, well, the only way to be against this is to be against America. And there are some Congress people that are against it and are against America.
Oh, sure.
But, and that's just the truth of it. But, if you actually saw it, then it's a willful thing. Like, at that point, you've seen the raw data, you've seen all the evidence, and you're still going against it, which means you have an agenda, and which means that you're not really going for America. Because if you believe this would weaken America, right? So, and if it weakens America, that would technically be a bad thing, right? That's not America first. No. Wanting to weaken us on the international stage is pretty America last, I think. So.
And how is it that a country who has invented enough tech that we can noticeably show some of the systems that protect our troops, how are you going to say that protecting our troops is America first? Like, not protecting our troops?
Yeah, they won't. They'll gloss over that, and they'll say you're going to go die for Israel and Israel's war. And I'm like, well, one, like, no one's went and died for Israel and Israel's war at all. Like, all of our Middle Eastern missteps were our own. The Iranian Islamic Revolution was not Israel's fault; it was our fault. And like, we did that, we pushed that, and we made it happen. So, and then like, we went into Iraq. And I don't agree with us going into Iraq. Yeah, at the time when I was, when we went into Iraq, I was still in high school, so I wasn't as up on the times, and I didn't know what was really going on. And I was raised a Republican, so it was just like, all right, well, if Bush says it's good, I guess we should do it, right? But now when you look back at it, I'm like, no, we definitely shouldn't have went in Iraq, and we could have had Afghanistan won, in the very beginning of 2002, by where we were at, if we would have just kept on the course that we were on. So yeah, obviously missed that.
What's funny is that I talk about this all the time. Bush, after we went into Iraq, I think it was like 4 months later, he did this big thing where he flew out on a jet to an aircraft carrier with a big mission accomplished banner across it, and he said the job is done. If he had pulled the troops out right there, the job would have been done, and he would have went down in history as probably one of the best presidents that America ever saw. Instead, he decided to push it and say, we're going to build a free, democratic Iraq, which is ridiculous.
Well, and people don't realize, well, one, you can't bring democracy to a region that is not anywhere in their entire, like, no one there believes in that, and it's not something that they've ever even, it's just one of those concepts that's foreign to them. They're like, wait, I don't even know what this means. Like, I go cast this paper, and now they, like, I don't trust this. That, it's not a thing that they view as even a good thing, right?
No,
that's just because it's a completely different world and a completely different mindset. But the one thing other people don't understand is that whether Saddam Hussein was, terrible and did terrible things to his own people sometimes, that's irrelevant. He was the counter to Iranian dominance in the area. And Israel knew this, which is why Israel at the time was like, no, you shouldn't go into Iraq. Like, if you're going to actually invade anybody, you should go into Iran. But they're way more dangerous, and they're the ones that are actually pushing, that were helping the Taliban, helping Al Qaeda, just like some of these other countries were too. Iraq really wasn't. I mean, Saddam had a pretty good hold on the country, and he kept all the craziness at bay, and he kept it all, just like after we got rid of Gaddafi. Like, what happened, right? It all went to shit because, was this dude the best? No. Was he evil in certain ways, and did he do evil things to maintain power? Yes. Was the world a little bit more stable, though, while he was in charge of that one country? Yes. So, like, two things can be true at once. And, does it justify going into a country and deposing this person, and then just like, because once you do that, once you get rid of Saddam's gone, his lineage is gone. Now this entire Sunni government is gone. Now what happens? Now there's a power vacuum. We saw ISIS from that. And then, now you have radical Sunnis who are even way worse than what Saddam was. and then now you have the infighting with the Shias, and you don't like. There's just this whole dynamic that no one even knows about. And I mean, they were when I was in Iraq. When we were at BIOP, and we didn't find out till after we were there for almost 3 weeks that the outer cordon gate guards for BIOP were all Shia militia that were unvetted, untested. Like no one knew who they were at any given time. And we were like rolling, like BDSC was the diplomatic support center inside of BIOP, where we had our own gate guards and we had our own compound inside of there. But when we left, like we had pistols and stuff, but we weren't even bringing long guns at first, because we were like, we're still on base, right? Like we're good. We're going to train these. I mean, we had like long guns in the cart, like, but we weren't bringing crew serve. We weren't bringing like what we really should bring. So if the shit hits the fan,
right.
And then we got a intel brief like 3 weeks in, and they were all saying all this stuff, and we were like, what? We're like, this whole time. Yeah, it's just Shia militia, just random Shia militia guarding all the gates. And they're like, yo, yeah. We're like, okay, well, how about that? So, but people don't even know what you're talking about, I mean, when I was we're in Baghdad, and at that time, ISIS, they had acquired some howitzers, and they had them in range to where they could have engaged Baghdad, where we were at. And so I'm like, wouldn't that be some shit to get blown up by your own, weapon system inside of another foreign country? So,
man, it's been really fun talking to you. I'm gonna shut it down for now, but I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'd love to do a space with you too. Every time someone says you got a space going, I come and try to jump in and listen to it. So
yeah,
we do spaces almost every day. So anytime you see us on, come in. You got an automatic mic with me. Guys, his information will be in the description on this, and you can follow him. His link is in my pinned tweet on Twitter. Make sure you give this guy a follow, man. He's one of the good guys. He really knows what's going on. Thanks a lot for coming, man. I really do appreciate it. And guys, I will see you in the morning. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do.